So I think we've got mostly everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So, Kevin, if you can pop to the next slide, we'll go through the
Yeah.
agenda. But again, welcome to the Sifted AI Copilot demo here. So this is what we're going to cover today. So myself and Kevin will do quick introductions. We're going to talk about the industry. As you can imagine, there is a lot, a lot of noise around AI, not only in the parcel shipping world, but just in general. So some stuff that we're seeing, some stuff that our, clients have shared with us, the industry articles that we're seeing. We're going to go into a little bit around the why and the how that we developed Copilot. And then it's time for the main event, where Kevin is going to go through and dig into a bunch of different use cases within Copilot and actually go through the demo. And then, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we will get into the Q&A. So our goal is to leave about 10 to 15 minutes for that Q&A at the end.
Awesome.
But it's always good to, understand who you're getting to know here today. So my name is Nick Giuliani. I'm the Director of Business Development and Partnerships here at Sifted. I'm in my second stint and coming up on almost a year here in my newest stint with the company. Very excited to be back. I spent 3 years here back in 2015 to 2018.
Yeah, and I'm Kevin Nolton, Director of AI Engineering. And as we were kind of getting prepared to hop into the call, as Nick and I were chatting, and just uh, it's really fun to see the impact of Copilot, the impact of even just being able to leverage AI to solve problems in small parcel. I've been working at Sifted for about the last 7 years, which is uh, it's gone by so fast. It's been a lot of fun. I have kind of fallen in love with the parcel industry. When I first started at Sifted, I was working in more of a solutions type of role, so it was just really engaged with shippers, being able to understand problems. And for me, I've always been uh, more about what technology can do to make an impact more than about just technology for the sake of technology. So for me, I really started in data engineering, data analytics. There's just so many powerful problems you can solve with machine learning and getting embedded in data science teams and within software development. So just over time have moved and grown and just been interested in learning new things. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself and just kind of my background.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Well, I think I touched on it here a second ago, but I feel like everybody in the world right now, every vendor, whether it's our space or, any process in the world right now, like AI powered is being thrown on websites and is being thrown into every conversation. And I mean, I would imagine, and I know I hear it from, the prospects and clients I talk to, that it's just a constant conversation that they're talking about internally because it's just so up in the air on like what direction do we go. So I think for you, Kevin, I mean, I can share some of my examples, but like what are you seeing out there and like how do you think about AI from our, clients' perspective, just to cut through all the noise that seems to be generally out there in the world?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of excitement, hesitancy, and the thing at least that makes me really excited about, there's some use cases of AI I look at and go, this is hype. There's some use cases where AI go, I think this can be really impactful and can make people's lives better. Global supply chain, the movement of packages is just it's so practical and you can see it. I think that's why I've started to really enjoy Parcel and I've kind of gotten the bug for it is because it's such a like you can see it. There's shipments coming to my house all the time, probably more than I'd like. But being able to see that and the impact of being able to actually manage all of that, to optimize it, is just a really cool problem to solve. And so for me, I get excited about what AI can do. I think we're all seeing it's pretty powerful. There's a lot that can be, its impact can be really large. And when it comes to the parcel and to supply chain, there's just, yeah, to me, that's, like I said, there's a lot of noise, but in parcel, that it's a good space. It's a good place for AI to be able to optimize and make things better.
Well, I think we have enough conversations with people that it's like if we're not talking about it, we're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
But I think what ends up happening is that it's so overwhelming, they don't really know where to start. And I think that's a really good lead into like, what we want to talk about next, which is like with all the noise and with everything that is really happening in our industry, it's like, how do you protect yourself? How do you evaluate AI when it comes to your parcel operations? Because I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I hear is people are just like, I don't know how to make sure I'm protected. I don't really know how to evaluate it, and I don't actually know in the grand scheme of things how it's going to affect me overall. So when you think about evaluating AI, what is some of the most important things that you're seeing or that they should be considering?
Yeah. Yeah. So like for me in a, in an engineering capacity and software development world, obviously that is a world that's seeing the effects of AI first.
Hmm.
There's a huge emphasis on tools for that space and that industry. Uh, and what really for me, I want to make sure that as a development shop, we have the right tools and that we're, if we're considering partnering with a vendor, we're considering, the tools, how we architect, how we infrastructure, how things are, designed, that we're considering where AI is going. And so, yeah, I think being able to partner with someone in, if, we're in that transportation space and that industry, probably lags a little from software development in terms of how far it's progressed. But being able to consider, if I'm partnering somebody, I want to know that these systems are going to talk to each other. That's where I get excited about what all AI can do. Because right now you kind of you have your planning phases and being able to put together a strategy of your network, being able to go evaluate how that plan is playing out, but then being able to go execute on it. There ends up being some gaps and a lot of work that takes place. And I think AI is going to be able to bridge a lot of those gaps together. So thinking forward on who you're partnering with from TMS and WMS and your analytics partners to be able to have this ecosystem of tools glued together is really the vision that I can see and what I would definitely encourage to be at the forefront as you're evaluating.
Do you feel like data protection is probably the number one thing that kind of pops in people's brains when it comes to evaluating AI? Do you think of all the things on here of like what we should be evaluating, do you feel like the data protection is probably the number one topic that is happening?
Yeah, because AI is only going to be as good as the data that it has access to and the data that it knows how to leverage and knows how to pull into context. Um, And so, yeah, when I think about data security and concerns there, especially, being able to have, like, if models are being trained off of data, you're going to start to eventually that data starts coming full circle. You think of art, people using AI to generate art, and you'll end up seeing a signature or something. That it starts to you start to see it kind of come through. And so I think data security, that layer of data is actually the most valuable commodity of the AI revolution. So being wise with that data and where it goes and where it travels is more and more important because I think the value of that data is very high.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so appreciative of you and your team, like taking these bullets so seriously when we were building Copilot. And not only when we built Copilot, but you guys are obviously tapping into different tools as well. And so I know we take these bullet points very seriously as far as like ensuring that we are doing everything we can to produce the best product. And obviously, another good segue in to talk about like obviously these are really important for our, our shippers and our clients to evaluate. So when we think about this evaluation, like now we can jump into like how and why we created our Copilot tool. So I'm really excited about you to go through that. I just think like when I think about you talked about it, like parcel should be, it seems like this simple thing, stuff goes in box, you tape that box up and you send it to someone's house and it's like it should just be so simple, but we all know from working here and just being in this industry and talking with our clients, like the parcel industry is incredibly complex. And
Yeah,
this, the speed to get answers and make decisions and take actions can be really difficult depending on how you're trying to go about it. And so to see even just some of the use cases in the last couple of weeks that we've done with clients, like it just makes me so excited to think about like what this is going to do for our clients when they are trying to solve those really complex problems. So I'll let you
yeah,
kind of just touch on like how we've built all this stuff, how we're, keeping everything secure and allowing some of those evaluation topics from the previous slide into how we built our tool.
yeah, yeah. Because I know that there's all these tools it's coming out so fast. Like so many
Mhm.
things are coming out. So it can be overwhelming. You're going like, man, am I falling behind? Am I, um, you know, I feel like there's a lot of work for me to go do for these AI tools. And man, it should create speed to information, speed to making decisions and speed. And a lot of times it ends up being speed to the wrong answer. Like
Yep.
you do all this work, you're using AI, you're getting answers, and two people show up with different numbers. We've got different strategies. We get some just kind of spreading out sprawl of information, uh, which can be a negative. Like that, it's like, okay, AI is probably not helping us anymore if that's where we're headed. So that's where, for us at Sifted, we're building these tools. It's a really big consideration of, how do we, number one, position it for the industry, for Parcel. AI, I would lose all credibility to say that our AI is perfect. Like that, that's not how AI works. However, we can build evaluations, and we can be really specific about grounding these tools in a way that we can quantify. Is this producing answers that we feel good about? Is this actually creating velocity in decision making versus confusion? And so I think that, obviously we were listing out on the slide, logistics trained, accurate, secure. So kind of focused on that logistics trained and accurate. And so I said accurate to the best that we can evaluate, and building those valuation frameworks is something that I'd say for sure you're evaluating a vendor, and they're bringing data into this AI space, uh, asking questions about valuations. How are you evaluating? How
Mhm.
it's grounded? How are you evaluating? Like, I don't want an AI tool that creates confusion. I want one that creates velocity. And so I think that that's a really powerful position. Definitely, like I said, if I'm evaluating, hey, are we going to move forward with this tool that's going to help us, go develop faster, build better tools? It's going to be part of that decision making process. I want to make sure that we're using really good tools, and then definitely security. And so for us at Sifted, it was really important that our data and our models, they live in the same place, and that we're not shipping data off, letting somebody else train against it. And we are not building those foundational models on, like, we're not building any of that on top of your data, like, on top of anyone's data. Uh, just to, again, like, we don't want to start seeing a signature. We don't want to start seeing that, it kind of starts showing up in the results, or being able to have, overlap between access of data.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I love it. Well, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's jump into, the different phases of Copilot. We can obviously talk through these, and then the really exciting part is going to be you going through the live piece. So if you can just spend a little bit of time talking about some of the different phases of Copilot, and then we'll jump into the demo from there.
Yeah, for sure. So Sifted AI Copilot, we're really thinking about it in three primary ways. We have where we are at today is Copilot Assist. However, we're not in the general availability of Auto Copilot and Copilot Simulation, but for Copilot Assist, that's broadly available, still in a beta phase, but broadly available. But like I said, for those three prongs, Copilot Assist, this is really that always on analyst come in and do work. Because that was what, like Nick, you and I were talking before this, kind of before we kicked off, of how you can just go through Assist and get so much done. It's kind of humbling in some ways. I think of working here for 7 years. A lot of the, you put work into a lot of solutions, or like being on the solution side. And I'm going, wow, some of these problems we could solve in a minute. And
Hmm.
that was a whole project that we spent a week on. It's changing the velocity to these decisions, and so really powerful on the Copilot Assist side. And then Auto Copilot is, you think you come in, you have this really powerful assist tool, you have no idea where to start, like, and you don't want to end up almost feeling bad saying, I'm busy with other things running my business. I'm not really sure what's going on. I mean, granted, I can come and ask Copilot, hey, what's going on? But being able to have that stuff pushed out, being able to have things proactively delivered to you on, hey, are things lost and damaged? Do we have, is there a rule that's not working for me, and how we're, like, addresses aren't getting caught, so on and so forth. Being able to have those things proactively pushed, and you can come straight into the platform. And so we'll walk through that in the demo on the Auto Copilot side of things, where, hey, we're not just recommending things for you to go research, but it's actually built on the data, saying, hey, here's what's happened, here's an anomaly, here's something that took place. And then on the Copilot simulation is being able to run those scenarios. And so we'll run through today a scenario of, hey, I'm teetering on an incentive tier with a carrier. So my pricing, my rates, maybe it could get a little better if I shifted a little bit of volume over. And so what would that look like? And being able to run those simulations, like, right from the chat, right from within a Copilot experience. So those are kind of our three prongs. And so yeah, we'll talk through all of them today.
Well, I appreciate you going through that. And I think what's so interesting is like probably some of the number one things that we hear is a lot of people talk about they don't have a lot of time. And then when they do start digging in, they don't really know where to start. And I think that's where the auto copilot is really starting to be a differentiator when we have our conversations with our prospects and our clients, because it's one thing to see like a little bit of a chart and say, okay, our cost per package is going up. It's another to be able to analyze that. And then, like you said, take that next step, which is what we continue to hear is like, what action do I take from here? It's not just enough to say, hey, your cost per package has gone up. It's enough to say, like, well, why is it happening or what are the actions that I can take? And to be able to do that all in Copilot, it's so impactful and it's so exciting to just see it be function. But the assist is also incredible because the amount of times that we've had people just say, like, I don't know how I can do this in a spreadsheet, or I don't know how I can do this in this pivot table. And now within, seconds, they're getting the answers to every question. I had a conversation yesterday, even they were like, I have these four problems. If you can help me solve those four problems, and I was getting so excited because I'm like, I could literally ask these questions in Copilot and show them everything. But we'll wait till the next call to go through all that in detail. But like just hearing the things that people struggle with, and then to know, each part of this is going to help solve that and really, really become that deliverable and how they take action in their operations is definitely, it's something that I'm seeing more and more when we're having our conversations, and it's my favorite thing about what we built here in the whole Copilot suite.
Yeah, very cool. All right, are we ready to jump into the
Let,
demo?
let's jump into the main event. All right.
Awesome. So got our Sifted AI platform pulled up, and if you're accustomed to or have seen it before, if you haven't seen the new navigation, I'm showing a new navigation here. You'll notice there's a little toggle for the new and the old. So I'll switch back to the old, just getting oriented if anyone has seen our current navigation. And there's a bit of this transformation. We're trying to seeing the way that AI can reshape a lot of the problems that we solve. And so with that, we're gonna, we need to shift away. We need to shift how we structure, how we organize the interactions with our platform. So instead of a top navigations over on the side, but the big main event is Sifted AI Copilot. You come in and go, wow, it's a chat bot. You literally land at a chat when you come into the page. Now, you'll notice over on the left-hand side, we still have Dashboard Explorer, Shipping Profile, all the things that you're accustomed to going and digging into. And there's, a lot of valuable insight to being able to, again, go see what's going on, have those right in front of you. But the really cool thing is, you go to those pages and you can have Copilot slide over from the side, can always be with you. You can be asking questions about what you're seeing. You see different trends going, whoa, why did something happen with DIM? Why did that happen? If you don't have to go do that investigation, that's where on our, under Sifted AI Copilot, we have our chat and insight. And under chat and insight, we've got all of these preloaded cards that are dropped in here. So we have top insights, we have anomalies, recommendations, and achieved savings. So I'll first go over to the anomalies. This is something that's just always running in the background. We're looking for events. This is a little bit more of your like traditional machine learning. We're saying, hey, let's go predict anomalies. Let's go, determine when these events take place. And we're going to push that out. Say, hey, this might be worth looking into. So I have a couple of examples that have been loaded up here of accessorial percentages increasing, cost per package increasing. We see an increase in DIM, and then you could just come in and hit analyze and be off to the races in a chat, getting into the root cause. I say, why is this happening? What are the drivers of that? Uh, and then the next category we have is recommendations. And so you'll notice our recommendations is also under, we have a dedicated recommendations page where you can go drill into those recommendations and take action on them. Go and say, hey, I fixed these, move them to done, or yeah, actually this isn't applicable, and kind of close those out. But so yeah, I said next we have a whole bunch of recommendations that are loaded up in here. And so to start our demo, we'll just drill into a specific recommendation and let the chat do some work for us. So I will start with our lost and damaged package. So I just clicked on the KPI and you see it pops up in the chat. But I can, let's say if I want to customize what it says, and you see it pre-populated with a question. But if I want to go in and be a little bit more specific, tweak it, I pulled up a question I thought might be a little more interesting than just digging into the recommendation. So here I have, are there specific areas where packages get damaged or lost more than others? So just kind of thinking of a question that if you don't have this, that'd be kind of tricky. So I'll go ahead and fire that off.
I love that question.
Yeah, it's like, how do you go and like, not only are you going and specifically isolating down to lost and damaged items, but then additionally being like, where are those delivered? And we'll be able to keep drilling down into this, having it, yeah, kind of run. We can do root cause. Hey, why is this happening? Is there theft? Is there, what's happening? Why are there any trends where we're seeing something specifically happening somewhere? And so the thing you'll notice as this runs is that it's kind of popping up these different statuses. So the thing to note with Sifted AI Copilot, this isn't an LLM where you ask it a question and it just predicts the next character and spits out a result. This is agentic AI. So you have an agent that has tools and it's making decisions. So as you see it flipping through these, different phases of, hey, let's go run a query. Let's look at the results of that data. Like, oh, what was in that? Okay, let's go grab more data. Let's analyze that. So this is an iterative. It's working behind the scenes for you and kind of parsing through. So it didn't. It's not just like, okay, question, let me predict an answer. It's very data driven. Going to go execute those. So the cool thing is you can go see its train of thought. Like, what did it go through? What did it identify as it was pulling data and analyzing the results of it? And so we get those thinking steps, and then ultimately you get your final answer. So we can see here it spit out some pretty interesting data, breaking it out by state, and we can see those percentages and where everything is. And inside the chat, we can build out your trends and graphs and visuals right into it. You go export those out, be able to use them, share them. We can also have a table, which we could dig into that a little bit more. But next, I want to ask a follow-up question because that's also, I know this, most people are very familiar with a chat bot, but calling it like this is that type of functionality that you're accustomed to using every day and a lot of your mainstream chat interfaces of like, I can just go ask a follow-up question and it's going to be context aware to what I'm talking about, the results that it found, the data it pulled in my initial question. So I'll go ahead and ask, can you review tracking descriptions to find out why these packages are lost or damaged? So kind of going more into the root cause of, hey, what's happening with these? Let's go drill into it.
I think that's the big piece right there, as you can see where it says all the next actions to take. It's like we want to dive another level deeper to really, really understand why this is happening. And now we can actually share, like, oh, here's the actions I can go take to solve this. I think it's one thing to say you had 100 lost and damage. It's another to understand every piece of information behind why it's happening, and then what can I do from a operational standpoint, customer service standpoint, communication standpoint, whatever it is, to be able to take that action as a company. Like that's where I think the power lies, is in that root cause, diagnostic piece that you're going through right now.
Yeah, so we can see it's planning the next steps. So it's definitely gone and pulled a bunch of data and it's kind of analyzing it. And we can even see that train of thought, be able to, feel confident about the numbers that it gave. Going back to that point of AI can, if you're not careful, it becomes velocity to confusion. So being able to go through and say, okay, this is what it's pulling from. Like this is what it thought. This is kind of the direction it went. And you can even see it go and say, like, hey, I'm gonna go try to source here. That doesn't look right. Let me try, where it's going to be reasoning through it and analyzing the data. And so, when you come in and ask a question later, it's going to have different data. There's going to be different packages that are lost and damaged now, and it might actually uncover something different the next time you come and ask it than it did the first time. And so again, we're going to end up getting some tables and visuals breaking out, so to kind of categorize lost and not delivered, damaged in transit, so we can see those different reasons. And to be able to dig into it. And then we, has kind of your suggesting follow-up questions. So we've got those listed out down here. But that's the general, Copilot Assist. Go drill into just about anything inside of your parcel operations within the Copilot Assist experience. So then next, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on that, Nick.
No, that was incredible. Thank you for sharing that example.
Yeah, you bet. So next, want to move. So obviously, we've been talking about the Copilot Assist. Kind of walking through an example of that. We have our Auto Copilot, and one thing to add with Auto Copilot is I had mentioned this earlier is that these can be notifications. So you'll notice I have a little notification bell. It can be in app. Get them an email. You can go manage those preferences. What are the things you care about? You want to be monitored and have those pushed to you. You can go set that up. And then the other really cool thing is before I had gone and I clicked a KPI. It just had it, kind of populate the chat. And I edited it. But let's say that I'm saying I want to let's just go analyze. So I'm going to hit the analyze button, and you'll see that it took me from my chat and insight into recommendations. And so here I can come in and look at my recommendations page, and I can take action on these if I'm going in. So I'd specifically selected tier change just so we can start moving towards simulation. So we're going to go from, Auto Copilot uncovering an event that took place We're going to go ask some questions about it with Copilot Assist, and we're going to move straight into Copilot Simulation. So in this case, we've got our table that is outlined as recommendations. Like I said, if we come in here, yeah, this is expected. We're shifting volume intentionally from this carrier. We know we're going to drop tiers. We've run that analysis. We know what the trade-offs are. We're going to keep a footprint, here so that we're ready for peak season. Kind of doing that planning. But I said inside this table, I'm going to specifically filter down to UPS. And so yeah, over here in the chat, it's going through running some analysis for us. Iterating through the tables, pulling data. But yeah, so filtering down just to UPS, we can see there were a couple of recommendations that had popped up saying, hey, you're right at a threshold. And these are kind of in a date order. But you can see that there was a spin tier drop that took place. So not too long ago, fell down a tier. So the question becomes, well, what if we were to shift a little bit more volume back over to get back up into that tier where we'd like to be? So we can use the chat to go dig into that. So let's see, I think I had a good question pulled up. Yeah, let's pull in this question here. So we'll just basically go ahead and ask, let's model what would happen if we were to go up a tier with UPS. We'll fire that off. And the cool thing, I'll go ahead and just take this back to full screen. I don't think we need to stay on the recommendations page anymore. And we'll let it go ahead and work and start thinking through. So again, this is where, we have an agent. That's what our Copilot, chat is. And it has access to all these different tools. So that can be, assist and different data sources. Or in this case, our contract modeling tool. Because, when it comes to simulation, you're talking about potentially, that's one of the things that's so cool with Parcel is, and what makes it so complex is there's so many parcels. It's not a full truckload. There's so many items, which means it's a really big data set. And you're not going to go take that whole data set and say, hey, AI, make a prediction, guess. We're still going to be actually running that analysis. But the cool thing is that agent can go and say, I have a tool to do that. So I'm going to go use that. So you can see here, it went ahead and rendered out into my chat contract modeling. And so I can go build out a model, and then it'll use that model, and we can kind of move through that assessment. So I said, popped it up here, and we can go build out our scenario with the tool. So it went ahead and popped in a name for me, selected our carrier, our date range, all that fun stuff. And I'm just going to go select a contract for my baseline. This is what I'm comparing against. And then I'm going to go grab my first scenario. And you see I've got my tiers here. And so I'm going to leave that at my current tier. And I'm going to basically simulate what if I go up a tier. And I'll go ahead and say create model. And so this is where it's like, that's at this point, that's actually not AI. This is actually going and running that analysis, processing it through a contract modeling tool. And then we'll come back to using AI to, hey, let's go analyze those results. And so you see here, it's running in the background, and then we're going to have our model pop up here. And then down at the bottom, it's going to be saying, like, hey, looks like we've got some baseline data, and it's going to resume back up the analysis here in just a minute. But yeah, so the cool thing with this is like you're actually going and saying, let's go use minimums and dim divisors, discounts, the discount difference between your, at tier 1 versus tier 2 and what those impacts would be. So we can see here, it's going back in, starting to, pull the data that had been generated through our contract modeling run. And so we're going to plan our next steps. You see it's starting to pull back ground commercial baseline and our discounts. So we can see, really changing a tier is really just going to change those incentive discounts. And so specific services where there's an incentive discount that may have a variance. And so here we get some charts and visuals, and it's going to go break down, exactly what, where those savings opportunities lie, how it impacts the different services. And then from there, it's like we have a model. We can go ask any sort of questions we want to again. Say, hey, I want to go understand in this area. I want to go keep filtering down and whittling down our results. But
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
for
kind of
context, for clients, we've literally had people say this is weeks of work that you just did in less than, 60 seconds to be able to understand. Like, this is a really, really big thing for a lot of our clients who are multi-carrier, who are trying to run these analysis, especially for our 3PL fulfillment houses. Like, this amount of analysis does not get done in that short of a time. So like you mentioned earlier, like that speed to decision becomes so much quicker when you can have everything, centralized inside a Copilot.
Yep. And yeah, and if you want, you can go open up that full model and see the full extent of, it created all of this data in this full analysis. And so we have a full analysis page. We can go dig into all the different areas where, it was impacting and what those fees are. But again, you just stay in the chat. That's, again, Nick, to us talking before we hopped on here, going, wow, you can do so much without ever leaving the chat, which is why there's that move of our navigation, move from like, actually this could be a place that does work for you,
Hmm.
whether you're in the platform doing something or not, having it working behind the scenes on auto copilot, coming in, doing assist. Like you're not in a spreadsheet waiting on a formula to populate, we're waiting on that formula to finish. I'm just in the chat. I'm letting it work for me.
Yeah.
It's yeah, really cool use
When
case.
you mentioned it earlier too, it's like we give you a place to start, right? We're giving you that insight. We're giving you a place to start these root analysis. Most of the people we talk to, it's just tough. They don't know where to start because the complexity of the data and trying to get it to this place, it becomes overly difficult. And so by shining a light on it and bringing to the surface, hey, your dim, hey, your cost per package, hey, this is happening, your tier change, like go in and analyze it. Here's the actionable steps to take through everything. I mean, the power behind this is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's what we were seeing. We're starting to, like being blown away at how much can be done. It's like, wow, this is super impactful. And realizing how do we make sure that people know when these things are happening? That's where that auto copilot starts to play out. So, I went ahead, I'd run this one prior to hopping on, because I had noticed I was looking at the trend lines on shipping profile, which, we could pull up on shipping profile. I was looking at this accessorial percentage of spend and just noticing that, we're largely percentage wise under 40%. But like, well, okay, there's this tick up. I mean, I don't necessarily want somebody to have to come in here and look at that, but I noticed. I was like, oh, interesting. So that's where, again, auto copilot is going to call stuff out. But okay, why? I'm curious. I want to understand why that happened. So just came in and said, hey, I noticed that, starting back in like November, December, we started being about 40%. What in the world happened there? And so it's going to go through, and again, it's going to do all this thinking phase. It's going to go in and confirm what I'm seeing. So we can see here, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. It looks like, there's a big jump that had happened here. Here's a first time jump. Here's where we really had a significant impact. Let's go see what those are. So it goes and starts breaking out all these fees. And it goes and drills in and ultimately goes, oh, wait, this is new. Peak season resi. I guess that, like, yeah, that lines up. Fourth quarter of the year, we've got a bunch of residential charges. It bumps up accessorial percentage. And so it kind of goes through, it keeps doing its analysis. And at the end of the day, it's, going to go visualize out, help explain and tell the story of what it found and why that happened. So obviously in this case, we know what that root cause was. It was peak season. But yeah, now, okay, great. That's really good to know. Let's talk about next year. Let's forecast, let's plan for this. Again, it's back to that. Cool. Let's seamlessly move into simulation. Let's start talking about moving incentive tiers and how those types of things happen. Uh, and so, yeah, again, we've got our trend lines and we've got different tables and charts here. And one thing I did want to make sure that I showed was if you want, you can come and say, hey, can I just get a table that I can export? And so, you can have it go all the way down to a charge level, tracking level, and just come in and export that data straight out of the chat. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you had top of mind, Nick, to go. That was my demo. That's what I got.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Kevin. Well, I know we got about 10 minutes left, so if people want to, as we were reminded at the bottom, there's the Q&A. So if people want to drop some questions into there, we'd love to take the last 10 minutes here to answer any questions that you have. And just a quick reminder too, in the chat, there are two links. So you can book a personalized demo, and you can also stay up to date with all Sifted and industry happenings by subscribing to our newsletter. So we'll give everyone a quick second here if you want to drop some questions into that Q&A at the bottom. We're happy to answer anything we can. Not seeing anything pop up quite yet.
We were
Well,
we were thorough.
I know, I guess so. Well, if there wasn't any other questions, I know Kevin, we had talked about yesterday, like some other really interesting use cases that you've seen. Um, well, you already talked about the lost and damaged piece. I think, oh, looks like we got one that just popped in here. We said, Scott asked, when you initially selected specific geographic areas for loss and damage, can you drive down that data further?
Sure, let's do it. So let's go grab, let's see, where's my conversation? Yeah, there we go. Package loss and damage. So if we were to go drill, I guess maybe let's take a location, try to understand what happened. Let's maybe grab, where's one that looks interesting? We're in Florida. Let's see what we got. So let's go drill into. Let's see what that does.
Now the questions are popping in.
Yeah.
We got another good one coming in after we answer Scott. So yeah, Scott basically followed up and said like, what info will it gather if you dive into that even deeper? Obviously, it makes sense when you send something to a larger state with, if more of your clients live in California, that would make sense. So what can we drill underneath?
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like we got some carriers, some carrier breakdown happening. GPS. But I guess in short, to answer that the question on this, it's choose your own adventure. I mean, absolutely ask the follow-up questions and drill into it as far as you like to go kind of understand what's happening there. But yeah, you see, went ahead specifically had to go drill into a specific location and
Mhm.
break down those details.
And then obviously, if you had a geographic area with very few packages but a high amount of damage and loss, you could
Mm.
also dig into that as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then the other one, can we
Thank you.
have Copilot predict fuel surcharges specific to my contract as the price of oil/diesel goes up and project how month over month spend will go up? That is a good question. So let me think about how that plays out. So comparing your contract, make sure that I've got a good grasp of what that would of what we're after here. So this student contract by well, it goes up. So yeah, in this case, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You can have it come in and do some, like, hey, let's go look at those fuel surcharges that are taking place. I will say, it's hard to predict the oil, and that's the part that my gears are spinning on. Predicting fuel prices and where those land is tricky. But I do know, like recently there's the announcement from UPS around fuel charge. There's some changes coming to how they're doing those fuel charges. Being able to come in and take that information of like, hey, here's what's changing, drop them in the chat, say forecast that out for me. Yeah, absolutely, it's a great use case.
I have a question. So obviously, we've always been really big about predictive analytics and helping people understand, like, hey, how is peak season going to affect? How is the GRI going to affect? So could you talk through a little bit of like use cases around general rate increase and how that could go from, hey, we have this report that says, 6.1 is our effective and 8% in residual, and then how to actually, like you said before with peak season, then plan for 2026? Like how would you use the Copilot scenarios you just ran through?
Yeah, no, I was, we were, as we were moving into that fourth quarter of the year, we weren't quite at the general availability of the tool yet.
Hmm.
Uh, but it was one of our top use cases that was top of mind was saying, hey, let's make sure that that data, the context, say around peak season charges, that is readily available and that you can go run those types of say, hey, let's go look at my historical shipments. Let's go look at what was announced and being able to kind of run those scenarios through. And definitely as you ask those, you're gonna say, okay, here's let me do some Copilot Assist. Let me walk you through what that looks like. But then it's gonna start suggesting, like, hey, great, do we want to talk about a strategy of diversifying a little bit? Do we want to talk about those strategies? And you can kind of start going through the chat and yeah, working through it. I mean, there isn't a specific, I will say there's not a specific contract modeling element to that of like, hey, let me go run contract modeling for that use case as much as that use case is let's go grab the announced pricing. Let's go pull in your historical shipments and be able to run that analysis. And it's going to be pretty good at marrying those sources up and really running that on the fly without having to go build or write something. It's a little bit different than a full blown, you know, actually re-rating everything down to minimums and dim divisors and discounts and incentive tiers. We're talking those types of changes. And then obviously as UPS and FedEx or all the above, as GRI rolls around, we're talking really big announcements. That's something where we're going to make sure that we push all of that data is readily available to the chat so that you can run any analyses that you want to, and then we've got
Yeah.
that stage set for you. Don't want to create work for anybody to have to go and say, oh man, I need to go get this document into the context window of Copilot, but yeah, being able to have that data under the hood.
Yeah. I think I mean, I said it before, but I think so many conversations we have, people talk about, like, I just don't have a ton of time to go and diagnose this stuff. I don't always know where to start. I need stuff being pushed to me. I need stuff being simmered to the surface. And then when you can have that happening, we're already doing that, right? We're already simmering stuff to the surface. Now you're being able to analyze it, get to the root cause of it, and have actionable insight. I think it just takes that next level of how do we get better in our operations, right? How do we get better in our contract? How do we get more efficient, cost mitigate? I think you can take so many different approaches. And now our clients, our prospects, everyone's going to have that tool at their disposal to be able to take the action necessary. And I think it's really exciting. I think when you look through this and see the different use cases, it's almost endless. uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know we're basically right at time here, so I don't see any other questions. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, Kevin, for running us through, and for you and the team that have just done such an incredible job building this. Really excited to see where everything goes. But that's a wrap for our AI Copilot demo.